My name is Jordan Ellis. If you asked my father, he'd tell you I'm the family mistake, the girl who cracked under pressure, the dropout who couldn't handle 8 weeks of basic training and came home with her tail between her legs to work retail. I wasn't supposed to be at the graduation ceremony that day. Not really. I was the ghost at the feast, the embarrassing footnote in the glorious chapter of the Ellis family legacy. I sat in the last row of the bleachers, the metal burning my thighs through my jeans, drinking lukewarm coffee from a styrofoam cup. Down on the field, hundreds of cadets stood in perfect formation, a sea of crisp uniforms and polished brass. Among them was my younger brother, Blake, the golden boy, the varsity quarterback, the natural leader. My parents were seated in the VIP section, front and center. I could see my father's chest puffed out, pointing at Blake, probably telling the stranger next to him that that was his son, the one who made it. I pulled my cap lower. I wasn't there to be seen. I was just there to watch. To make sure he was okay. Old habits from a life I wasn't allowed to claim anymore. The ceremony was long. Speeches about honor, sacrifice, and the weight of the uniform. Words my father ate up like scripture. He loved the aesthetic of the military, the salute, the flag, the hierarchy. He loved the idea of it. He just didn't know the reality. I did. But I was the one person in the stadium whose opinion didn't matter. Then, the procession began. The reviewing officer was walking the line. Colonel Richard Reed, a legend in special operations. Silver Star, Purple Heart, 3 tours in zones that don't officially exist. I knew his file better than he knew his own wife. I knew the scar on his left shoulder came from a botched extraction in Yemen, not a training accident. I knew he drank his coffee black with 2 sugars because I'd handed it to him in a bunker while mortars rained down 3 years ago. But he wasn't supposed to know me. Not here. Not in the daylight. He moved down the line, shaking hands, nodding. The crowd cheered. My father was clapping so hard I thought he might break a bone. And then, Colonel Reed turned to exit the field. His path took him right past the bleachers. He was walking fast, surrounded by his entourage, eyes scanning the perimeter. Then, he stopped. It wasn't a casual pause, it was a freeze. His eyes locked on the top row of the bleachers. On me, time seemed to warp. The noise of the band, the cheering parents, the wind in the flags, it all dropped away. I saw the recognition hit him like a physical blow. He looked at my civilian clothes, my messy bun, and the cheap coffee cup. Then he looked at my eyes. And he knew. He didn't hesitate. He didn't care about protocol or the hundreds of civilians watching. He snapped his heels together. His posture straightened into a rod of iron, and he raised his hand in a slow, perfect, regulation salute. Not to the flag, not to the other officers, to the girl in the nosebleed seats. The silence that followed was heavy. It started in our section and rippled outward. People turned. Whispers broke out. Who is he looking at? Is there a general up there? My mother's smile froze, a rictus of confusion. She looked around, trying to find the dignitary the colonel was honoring. My father squinted, his brow furrowed, looking directly at me but not seeing me. Unable to compute the data in front of him, Blake, down on the field, paused mid-stride. He looked up, shielding his eyes against the sun, trying to figure out why the reviewing officer had stopped the show. I sat there for a heartbeat, feeling the weight of the colonel's respect. It was dangerous. It was reckless. But God, it felt good. I stood up slowly. I didn't return the salute. I was in civilian attire, and I was deep cover. But I looked him in the eye, gave him the smallest, almost imperceptible nod, and mouthed the words, "At ease, Colonel." He held it for a second longer, a silent acknowledgement of a debt that could never be repaid. Then he dropped his hand, turned sharply, and marched away. The spell broke. The crowd murmured, confused, unsettled. I didn't wait for the questions. I turned and walked toward the exit stairs. My heart was hammering a slow, steady rhythm against my ribs. The cracks in the facade were starting to show, and I knew, better than anyone, that when a dam breaks, You either swim or you drown. I made it halfway to my car before I heard the footsteps. Heavy, angry footsteps. Jordan, hey, you stop right there. It was my father. He was jogging across the asphalt, his face flushed red, his tie flapping over his shoulder. He looked like a man whose world had just tilted 5 degrees to the left, and he was looking for someone to blame. I stopped and turned. Hello, Dad. Nice ceremony. He stopped a few feet from me, breathing hard. Don't give me that. What the hell was that back there? What was what? The Colonel, Reed. He looked right at you. He saluted you. My father jabbed a finger in my direction. Do you know him? Did you date his son or something? Is that why he embarrassed himself like that? I almost laughed. That was his logic. The only reason a high-ranking officer would acknowledge his failure of a daughter was a romantic entanglement. I don't know his son, Dad. Then what? Why would a full-bird colonel salute a dropout? A girl who couldn't even finish basic training? The words were familiar. He'd been saying them for 10 years. They used to cut. Now, they just felt dull, like a knife that had lost its edge. Maybe he mistook me for someone else, I said calmly. Don't lie to me, Jordan. You've always been like this. Secretive. Weird. Drifting from one dead-end job to another. And now you show up here, looking like a mess, and make a scene at your brother's big day. He stepped closer, looming over me. Blake earned this. He worked for this. Don't you dare ruin it for him. With your drama. I looked at him. Really looked at him. I saw the fear behind the anger. He needed his narrative. He needed Blake to be the hero. Because if Blake was the hero, then his parenting was a success. If I were anything other than a failure, his whole world would have gotten complicated. I'm not trying to ruin anything, Dad. I'm proud of Blake. Then go home, he snapped. We're having a celebration dinner tonight. The whole family is coming. Generals are coming. Don't embarrass us. He turned and walked back toward the stadium, straightening his tie, composing his face back into the mask of the proud father. I stood alone in the parking lot. I should have left. I should have driven away, gone back to my small apartment with the encrypted comms unit under the floorboards, and disappeared. That was the job. But I couldn't, not this time, because I knew something my father didn't. I knew why Colonel Reed was in town, and I knew that the celebration tonight wasn't going to end with cake. I was 19 when I died. That's how I think of it. The official story is that Jordan Ellis washed out of Officer Candidate School, OCS, in week 4. Panic attacks. Insubordination. Failure to adapt. My parents got the letter, signed by a base administrator, expressing regret that their daughter wasn't military material. The truth was a midnight interrogation in a windowless room. I had flagged a discrepancy during a training simulation. A tactical error in the programming made the scenario unwinnable. I hacked the sim, rewrote the code in real time to save my squad, and finished the mission. They didn't expel me. They bag and tagged me. I woke up in a facility that didn't appear on the GPS. A man in a gray suit sat across from me. He didn't ask me about my code. He asked me about my moral flexibility. There are threats, he said, sliding a folder across the metal table, that cannot be fought with standing armies. They cannot be fought with flags or treaties. They require ghosts. People who don't exist. People who are willing to be nothing, so that the world can stay something. He offered me a choice. Go back to my life, finish OCS, maybe make captain in 10 years, push paper, follow orders, or join Echo Watch. You will have no rank, he told me. No recognition. Your family will think you failed. Your friends will forget you. You will live in the shadows, but you will save lives every single day. I looked at the folder. Photos of a chemical weapon shipment disguised as medical supplies. A plot to destabilize a grid in Eastern Europe. Things that kept generals awake at night. I didn't hesitate. Where do I sign? You don't sign, he said. You just vanish. And I did. For 10 years, I became a shapeshifter. I lived in 6 different countries. I learned to assemble a sniper rifle in the dark and hack a bank server in the time it takes to order a coffee. I spoke 4 languages fluently and 2 more well enough to lie in them. I missed my cousin's wedding because I was extracting a defector from a safe house in Minsk. I missed Christmas because I was tracking a radioactive isotope container through the port of Karachi. My family saw a cashier at a bookstore who lived in a studio apartment. They didn't know the bookstore was a front and the apartment was a safe house. They didn't know the business trips I took for the bookstore were actually insertion missions. It was a lonely life, but it was a necessary one. Until now. The party was in full swing when I arrived. My parents' backyard in Virginia had been transformed. String lights draped from the oaks, white linen tablecloths, a catered buffet that smelled of roast beef and expensive wine. It was a who's who of the local military community. Retired officers, active duty commanders, and local politicians. And in the center of it all, Blake. He looked good in his dress blues. A little drunk, a little loud, but happy. He was holding court, telling stories about basic training that I knew were exaggerated. But the crowd ate it up. I walked in through the side gate. No one greeted me. It was like I was invisible. I found a spot near the edge of the patio, in the shadows, and watched. My father was in his element. He had a scotch in one hand and was gesturing wildly with the other. "He's got the killer instinct," Dad roared, slapping Blake on the back. "Top of his class in marksmanship. That's the Ellis blood right there. We breed warriors, don't we, son?" Blake laughed, clinking glasses. "Trying to live up to you, Dad. You already surpassed me," Dad beamed. Then, his eyes slid over to where I was standing. The smile faltered for a fraction of a second, then returned, tighter. "At least one of you did." The group chuckled. A few people glanced my way, pitying looks, dismissive looks. Poor Jordan, the one who couldn't hack it. I took a sip of my water. I wasn't angry at Blake. He was a good kid. He believed the hype. He didn't know that the marksmanship award he won was based on a scoring system I had secretly recalibrated remotely 3 years ago because the old system was flawed. He didn't know I had been watching over him, a guardian angel with a clearance level higher than God. I checked my watch. 2,100 hours. The pulse came through my wrist. 3 short vibrations. 1 long. Protocol black. My stomach tightened. This wasn't a drill. This wasn't a check-in. This was an active threat interception. I pulled my phone out, keeping it low. The screen was black, but my thumb traced a pattern on the glass that activated the secure interface. I frowned. Local? I expanded the data stream. The signal wasn't coming from overseas. It was coming from inside the house. Specifically, it was emanating from a device connected to the house Wi-Fi. I tapped into the router logs. My fingers flew across the virtual keyboard. Traffic analysis. Encrypted packets. Massive data upload. Someone was uploading classified schematics of the Fort Marshall defense grid to an external server. I traced the IP. It was Blake's phone. My blood ran cold. Blake? No. He wasn't a traitor. He was a showboat. But he was loyal. I drilled deeper into the packet data. It was a malware piggyback. He must have downloaded something, a game, a file, a congratulations email that contained a sleeper worm. And now, unknowingly, he was transmitting state secrets to a server in a non-extradition country. But EchoWatch wasn't the only one watching. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, had sniffers on the grid. If I saw it, they saw it. And they wouldn't be subtle. The music changed to something upbeat. My mother brought out a cake. Blake was laughing. Then the lights went out. Not just the string lights. The house lights. The street lights. The entire block plunged into darkness. The music cut. The laughter died. "Power outage?" someone asked. Then came the sound. The crunch of boots on gravel. The racking of slides. "Federal agents! Nobody move!" The backyard gate exploded inward, kicked off its hinges. Beams of tactical flashlights cut through the darkness, blinding and chaotic. 12 men in full tactical gear swarmed the yard. They weren't police. They were a DHS extraction team. Heavy armor, face masks, and assault rifles raised. Down! Everyone down! Now! Guests screamed. My mother dropped the cake platter, the sound of shattering ceramic echoing like a gunshot. My father froze, his glass halfway to his mouth. "What is the meaning of this?" Dad bellowed, trying to summon his command voice. "I am a retired lieutenant colonel. This is a private." A laser sight landed on his chest. "Get on the ground, sir. Do it now." Dad crumbled. He dropped to his knees, hands shaking. The bluster, the arrogance had evaporated in the face of real, unchecked violence. Two agents moved with terrifying speed toward Blake. "Blake Ellis!" the lead agent screamed. "Hands behind your head!" "I didn't do anything," Blake yelled, his voice cracking, high and terrified. "What is this?" They didn't answer. One agent kicked the back of Blake's knee, forcing him down. They slammed his face into the grass. The click of handcuffs was loud in the sudden silence. "Target secured!" the agent yelled into his comms. "We have the device. We have the suspect." "Suspect?" My mom was sobbing now, huddled against the patio table. "He's a boy. He just graduated." The lead agent, a man with eyes like flint, stepped into the center of the yard. He scanned the terrified crowd. "This man is under arrest for espionage under the National Security Act. We tracked a level 5 data breach to his personal device. He is selling secrets." "No!" Blake screamed from the ground, dirt in his mouth. "I swear, I don't know what you're talking about." "Save it for the interrogation cell," the agent spat. "Move him out." They hauled Blake up. He was crying now. The golden boy. The future. Broken, muddy, and terrified. My father looked up, his face gray. He looked at the agents, then at his son. He looked helpless. The military structure he worshipped was now turning its teeth on his own flesh, and he didn't have the rank to stop it. I stood up from my chair on the porch. The movement caught the eye of the agent covering the perimeter. He swung his rifle toward me. "Ma'am, stay down!" I didn't get down. I took a step forward. The heels of my boots clicked on the wood. "I sat down!" he screamed. "Agent," I said. My voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was the voice I used when I was negotiating with warlords. It was the voice of absolute authority. The lead agent turned. He shone his light in my face. I didn't blink. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded. I walked down the stairs. 1 step, 2 steps. "My name is Jordan Ellis," I said, "and you are about to make a career-ending mistake." "Secure her," the lead agent ordered. 2 men broke off to grab me. "Stand down," I said. I didn't shout it. I projected it. Authorization code. Echo. Sierra. 9. Variant black. The words hung in the air. The agents rushing me stopped. They hesitated. That code, it wasn't a standard military code. It was a ghost code. A clearance level that didn't exist on their org charts, but one they had been briefed to fear. The lead agent lowered his flashlight slightly. "Repeat?" I walked right up to him. I was 5'7". He was 6'2" in body armor. I towered over him. "Echo Sierra, 9. I repeated, locking eyes with him. "You are operating on a false flag trigger. The data breach on Cadet Ellis's device is a piggyback malware from a phishing packet. It is not an active transmission. It is a passive leak. If you arrest him, you blow the containment on the real target, which is the server in Odessa receiving the data." The lead agent stared at me. His brain was trying to process the shift. The girl in the cheap dress at the family barbecue was speaking the language of high-level cyber warfare. "I have no orders regarding an Echo asset," he stammered. "That's because I'm not in your chain of command," I said coldly. "I am the chain. Check your uplink. Run the code. Or do you want to be the one explaining to the Director of National Intelligence why you burned a 3-year counter-espionage operation because you couldn't tell the difference between a traitor and a victim of a bad email?" The yard was deathly silent. My father was staring at me, his mouth agape. Blake had stopped crying and was looking up at me like I was a stranger. The lead agent tapped his earpiece. His hand was shaking slightly. "Dispatch. This is team leader. Run a verify on a priority code." Echo, Sierra, 9. He waited. A second. 2 seconds. Then his face drained of all color. He stood up straighter. He swallowed hard. Understood. Copy that. He looked at me. The aggression was gone, replaced by pure, unadulterated terror. Ma'am, he said. Dispatch confirms. Override authority granted. Uncuff him, I said. Ma'am, standard procedure. I don't care about your procedure. Uncuff him. Now. Yes, ma'am. He signaled his team. Cut him loose. Fall back. Now. The agents released Blake. They practically threw the keys at him. They backed away from me. Weapons lowered. Eyes averted. They scrambled out of the yard like cockroaches caught in the light. Within 30 seconds, the SUVs were peeling away. The silence rushed back in, louder than the noise. I stood in the center of the yard. Blake sat in the grass, rubbing his wrists, stunned. My father slowly stood up. He looked at the shattered gate. He looked at his son. And then he looked at me. He walked over to me, his legs unsteady. He looked at my face, searching for the daughter he thought he knew. The dropout. The failure. Jordan? He whispered. What? What just happened? What code was that? I looked at him. I felt a strange sense of pity. He was a man of rules, and he had just realized the game was played on a level he couldn't even see. It's classified, Dad, I said. But you work at a bookstore, he stammered. You failed basic training. You came home. I came home, I agreed. But I never failed. I walked over to Blake. I offered him a hand. He took it, and I pulled him to his feet. He was taller than me, broader, but in that moment, he looked like a child. You saved me, he said, his voice trembling. How did you know? How did you make them stop? I brushed the dirt off his dress blues. You need to be careful what you download, Blake. Not everyone plays fair. I turned to leave. I had to go. The usage of the code would trigger a mandatory extraction. My cover was blown. I had maybe 10 minutes before a cleaning crew arrived to debrief the family and swear them to secrecy, and an hour before I was on a plane to a new identity. Wait! My father grabbed my arm. I stopped. I looked down at his hand until he let go. Who are you? He asked. There were tears in his eyes. My daughter. Who is she? She's the one serving her country, I said softly. Just like you wanted. She just doesn't need a parade to do it. I walked toward the gate. Jordan, my mother called out. Where are you going? I paused at the threshold of the broken gate. I looked back at the perfect party, the ruined cake, the family that had spent 10 years ashamed of me. I'm going to work, I said. I walked out into the dark street. A black sedan was already idling at the curb. Lights off. The back door opened. I slid inside. The car pulled away before I even closed the door. As we drove away, I didn't look back at the house. I checked my phone. New coordinates. New name. New life. I took a deep breath. For the first time in 10 years, the air didn't feel heavy. The secret was out, but the burden was gone. They finally knew I wasn't nothing, and I finally knew that I didn't need them to think I was something. I was Echo, and the mission continues.